Hey, everybody, I'm Sam the Man, and welcome into another episode of the Mountianeer Effect brought to you by Geek Gorilla TV. Please take a minute, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, check us out on Facebook. Guys, today's a very special episode for me. I'm bringing in a good friend of mine. His name's Jack, big Virginia Tech Hokies fan. Bring him on to talk a little bit about the game, both the Virginia Tech, West Virginia side, and see what he thinks. So let's do it. I've got my buddy Jack with me today. We're going to talk a little bit about the game. He's a Hokie fan, and Jack is very football knowledgeable. He knows what he's talking about. So I'm excited for him to be on here and he decided to do this with me. I want you to talk a little bit about Virginia Tech. I know some people have been kind of rough on Virginia Tech because they say UNC was overrated and blah, 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 blah. But Virginia Tech has some, when you really stat dive on them, they have some pretty amazing stats. What are you seeing from Virginia Tech that's gonna help them beat this West Virginia team?
They got probably two cornerbacks, and one of them's probably going to be an All-American. They get after the ball. They go after the ball. They can run. The kid is still working on passing, but he's a good. The quarterback's a good runner. His name's Braxton Burmeister. He's solid. Got a good arm. They're athletic. They took a big hit against Middle Tennessee. Their starting tight end, who was a Mackey Award list watch guy, he got hurt. He's out for the year. He was a big part of their offense, but it seems like you're starting to see a little bit more of the aggressiveness of old. When Bud Foster was there, the defensive coordinator is a guy that played for Bud Foster and played in the NFL for about 8 years, Justin Hamilton. He was a safety. It seems like the kids in the second year have kind of really grasped his system, and they're aggressive. They're playing a lot of man, and they come after you. I mean, they gave a Heisman. I would say I'm a big believer in that. You need to play 3 weeks before you even have polls.
Amen.
The kid from North Carolina, the quarterback is legit. That kid's a Heisman candidate. That kid's going to be a first-round draft pick. How? And they made him throw 3 interceptions and sacked him like 6 times.
Well, one of the stats when I was kind of going through, because I like the deep dive stats, I like weird stats. One of the stats that really stuck out in my head was tackle for loss. Virginia Tech has 18 tackles for loss already on the season, which validates everything you just said about them getting after the ball. I mean, I couldn't imagine any team having more than that. We know, watching West Virginia, their line has struggled with keeping pressure off of the quarterback, which is going to be a huge problem. How important is the tackle for loss stat in your opinion?
It's huge because let's say you run on first down and you get a 2-yard loss, you're already looking at 2nd and 12. And you're looking at, okay, now I don't know if I can run and, you probably may have to throw on 2nd and 12 because, I mean, what's the chances you're going to get 6 yards and say, okay, now I'm at 3rd and 6. The tackle for loss, but it will totally change up how you call your plays on offense. They've gotten a lot where, like on 2nd down, they've gotten guys, you could be 2nd and 4 and they've caused a sack and now you're sitting at 3rd and 12. Tackle for loss is huge. Tech has not, they look great right now. Tech's got there's some laws with Tech. I mean, there's some laws in their offense. They'll go like a few series where they won't score or won't move the ball. So, I mean, it's going to be that whole the jury's still out thing. I mean, they struggled last year, didn't even qualify for a bowl. They beat arguably probably an overrated North Carolina team. But, I mean, and then they took care of business against Middle Tennessee State. I mean, they beat them like 35-14. They didn't cover, but Middle Tennessee scored with like 23 seconds to go. I'm sure that upset a little bit of people for not covering. But the thing about Tech is if they take care of business, they get it. You know, if they take care of business against West Virginia, then they go in 3-0 and they play. Then they'll play a Richmond team that is, you know, is Division I. You know, still probably trying to build its program in a Division I level, not the FCS level. And then they get a bye week, and then Notre Dame comes to town. So they could be 4-0 playing against Notre Dame. I mean, which is huge. I mean, it's a lot of confidence. Now these guys are playing with confidence.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the thing that I'm looking at from the West Virginia perspective. Really, for West Virginia, this is a must-win game because you know you're 1-1. You dropped to Maryland. You beat Long Island. If you drop to Tech, their next game is Oklahoma. You're looking at being 1-3 on the season, and yeah, the schedule does soften up a little bit, but you know the Big 12 is kind of like your lottery league, man. Any team can beat any team at any time. You really can't gauge it on the rankings or players or anything like that. It's just kind of week to week. You just don't know what's going to happen. So I think this game for me is a must win. It's could make a very long season for West Virginia.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as saying it's a must win for Tech, but I would say pretty close because, you know, they don't have Clemson on their schedule this year. It's just the way it rotated. But I mean, they potentially could go. I mean, if they drop this game, then they're 3-1 going into playing Notre Dame, and Notre Dame possibly could be 4-0. And I mean, you know, not to get off subject, but Notre Dame hasn't looked the greatest, but it's Notre Dame.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it definitely Virginia Tech's one of those teams that's kind of interesting because their schedule's interesting. The rank, you know, just kind of the way they ranked UNC at the beginning of the season and all of that has set Virginia Tech up to where like their whole future and their whole season's in their hands. And if they could get through, beat West Virginia and get to Notre Dame, it's a very beatable Notre Dame team. I mean, you know, I think that's exciting. As a Tech fan, that has to be exciting because they have the potential to have a big season.
They do, and the thing is, this coach has to have a big season. He's on the. He is not. I mean, I can go as far as saying that the alumni, a lot of them are not a big fan of him. So he doesn't have a choice. He needs to have a big season.
Well, and that was something. Well, me and somebody earlier on in the year, we talked about some teams, and we talked about Virginia Tech, and that was kind of my take on it. Is he's playing on house money now, so he's gotta win, or they've got to move on. And this West Virginia game was one that I kind of looked at as really for him a career builder. You could argue that the UNC win was a big one, but this one, I think this one could dictate how the rest of his year goes as far as, whether Tech thinks about moving on or not. He may get the Notre Dame game for that, but especially if they beat West Virginia. But I think being on the hot seat every game, he's fighting for his career.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is you're right. The schedule does set up kind of favorably. I mean, if they beat West Virginia, they go into a Richmond game, which, I mean, if they lose to Richmond, then yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about that. I mean, even if they drop one in Notre Dame, I mean, you're looking at 4-1, and I mean, you've got Pittsburgh, Syracuse, Georgia Tech, Boston College, Duke. Now Miami could be a tough one, and then they finished with UVA. So I mean, they're set up to win that Coastal. I mean, that big deal is that Miami game is going to be huge at the end of the year. But
yeah,
they're kind of set up that they should handle. I mean, Pitt's playing well. Pitt beat I would say a little bit of undermanned Tennessee team this weekend, beat them by 7. Syracuse is struggling. Boston College, you can't get a read on Boston College because their last 2 games have been against Colgate and Massachusetts. So I mean, you might as well play North Tallahassee Tech or somebody. But it sets up favorably for them. They've got to take care. They can't be looking ahead. I really think it will be a good game because both of them know there's a rivalry trophy, and then there's it's a big deal. What's West Virginia's defense looking like?
Shit. I mean, just calling it as I see it, man. Like, the West Virginia defense hasn't really shown me much. Now, they might have pitched to watch out for. I would not kick to their punt returner at all. I mean, I just wouldn't do it. Wouldn't risk it. That's why I've had a hard time with this game. Like, Virginia Tech hasn't overly impressed me, but neither has West Virginia. That's why I think it's going to be a good game.
I think it's going to be a momentum game, and people could say, well, every game's a momentum game. Well, no, not really, because, I mean, who makes these swings? Who makes these big plays? Who makes a big play and then is right in that other team's rear end right off the bat again? Like, you don't let up. And that's a little bit of a part that scared me with Tech with North Carolina is I think they took their foot off the gas a little bit. And they left some points out there. Tech can run the ball. I will say that in 2 games, they can run the ball. They're big up front. They're experienced. I know their center's like a junior transfer from Coastal Carolina. They have 2 tackles that are they're guards. They have guards that switch in it, the switch series. One's a grad transfer from Maryland. They're pretty big and they can run the ball. The 2 running backs are good. One of them's a very good receiver. They've got some experience at wide receiver. So, I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, they still got to play. You got to catch the ball. You got to run the ball. You got to tackle.
Looking at the team that I know they could be versus the team that we've seen, is 2 different things because West Virginia does have some great talent. They've got some great weapons. Letty Brown is a great running back. He was a great running back last year. This year, he has been not impressive at all. We've got some good receivers, but they get cases of the dropsies, and then our quarterback, he can't go vertical down the field, and he can't really go to the boundary. It's so unpredictable. You just don't know what you're getting. Like, and that's West Virginia in a nutshell. You really don't know what team's going to show up. You don't know what you're going to get. And then our coach Neil Brown, with the play calling, he's a very analytical guy. So he gets a little too analytical. They get a little too caught up in the statistics of plays and percentages and don't just go with their gut. And sometimes you just got to go with your gut. And he's 41, he's young, he'll learn. But, I've really thought a lot about this game, and I don't know. I see West Virginia continuing to struggle, and that's just how I see it.
Now, I will say this, Tech's quarterback's a runner. He's athletic. He's a runner.
And that'll give West Virginia a lot of problems. It really will.
Like he'll look to throw the ball, and I mean, he'll sit in there and he'll throw it and let you clean his clock. But if you try to spy him with a linebacker and he's dropped back 10 or 15 yards, he's gonna go.
Well, see, that's what the West Virginia fans want, is that. And the problem is our starting quarterback, he loses the pass count. And so he holds on to the ball longer than he should. And then he don't move in the pocket, and he can't run. He really can't run very well. So, like, Neil Brown's just been extremely loyal to Jared Dagey, and that's fine and commendable and all, but, there's issues. That's all I can say. There's issues. I know, like, it sounds like I'm being really hard on West Virginia, and I am, because, man, like I think about other teams and things that's impressed me this season, and, like, West Virginia is one of the least impressive teams I've watched play so far this season.
I really expected you all by now to start competing in the Big 12, and it just hasn't happened for you all. You'll beat some teams you shouldn't have beat, but you'll lose to teams you shouldn't have lost to. But Tech does that. It's scary how much they parallel each other about how their programs are.
And with that, do you think that that's why this rivalry has always run so deep? Is because they kind of do mirror each other, and maybe some of the fans, because me and you're more, we're pragmatic. We don't look at it as like fans, like crazy fans. But do you think maybe that's something that they're missing, is that there's more of a parallel there than they think?
I believe so, and I believe that you're going to get that old guard at Tech that thinks they're just better. It's a rivalry, it's a fun rivalry, and it needs to be played. Well,
before we sign off, man, give me your score prediction for the game.
24-14 Tech.
My score prediction for the game is 27-17 West Virginia. So we're not too far off on margins, but we're off on who we think is going to win. And I have to pick West Virginia. I can't pick Tech. I still think West Virginia, if they can protect the ball, they can pull it out. I think it's just going to be a hell of a game. I can't wait to watch it. At the end of the day, for each team, this is a big game. For the fans, it's a big game. Like, I don't know that we've had this much excitement for football in a while. So we'll just see how it pans out.
It's been 2 years since fans. It's a big deal. So
yeah.